Welcome back, Inspiral family. I'm so glad you're here. This isn't just another book, it's an invitation to step beyond fear, beyond the unknown, and into a space where ancient wisdom meets the eternal truth of who we are. We're going to talk about something we all think about, but rarely say out loud: death. Death is the one journey we all must take, yet it remains the greatest mystery. This book is an invitation to explore what lies beyond, not with fear, but with curiosity and an open heart. We will walk together through ancient wisdom, modern science, and real stories of those who have glimpsed the other side. This is not just about death, it is about life, and how understanding the end can transform the way we live. Not as an ending, not as something to fear, but as a sacred transition, a return, a transformation. Why are we so afraid of dying? Maybe because no one talks about it. Maybe because we don't know what comes next. Maybe because we've been taught to avoid the subject altogether. But what if death isn't the enemy? What if it's just another part of the journey? This book is a deep dive into that mystery. We'll explore what happens after we take our last breath, guided by the Tibetan Book of the Dead, Buddhist teachings, and wisdom from other spiritual traditions that have been asking these questions for thousands of years. We'll talk about spirits, light, illusions, and freedom. We'll explore gods, guides, fears, and attachments. And most importantly, we'll ask the biggest question of all, not just what happens after death, but what's happening right now in your life, in your soul. So take a deep breath. Let go of everything you think you know. You don't need to bring your fears, your roles, or your identity here. Just bring your presence. This is your space, your sanctuary, your journey. Now, let's begin. Here's what we'll explore together. 1. Why we fear death. The terror of the unknown. Why modern society avoids talking about death. The illusion that death is the end. 2. The body dies. The awareness awakens. What happens in the first moments after death? The difference between the physical body and eternal awareness. Stories from near-death experiences. 3. Bardo, the 49-day transition. What is the Bardo? The Tibetan in-between state. The stages the soul goes through after death. Why some souls get stuck and how to avoid it. 4. Seeing the light. The light described in near-death experiences, why some souls merge with it and why others turn away. What is nirvana? 5. Why most souls don't go into the light. Fear, attachments, and unfinished business. The comfort of familiar illusions. How the soul's confusion keeps it from true freedom. 6. The illusions. Gods, angels, and familiar faces. Why we see religious figures or loved ones after death. Are these beings real or projections of our mind? How beliefs shape the afterlife. Experience 7. Anubis and the weighing of the heart. Ancient Egyptian wisdom about judgment after death, parallels in other religions. Heaven, hell, karma. What does it mean to have a light heart? 8. Religion and the human condition. Why did humans create religions around death? How different cultures explain the afterlife. The difference between spirituality and dogma. 9. The cycle of rebirth. Why do souls reincarnate? The role of karma in shaping our next life. How to break free from the cycle. 10. Breaking the cycle. The Path to Nirvana. What does enlightenment really mean? How to live in a way that prepares you for liberation. Stories of those who remember past lives, 11. Practical reflections. Preparing for a conscious death. How to live mindfully so you can die peacefully. Letting go of attachments before it's too late. How to help others cross over when their time comes. 12th. Messages from Beyond. Real stories of near-death experiences. Signs from loved ones who have passed. How to communicate with the other side. 13. Final integration. Embracing death as a teacher. What death teaches us about life. How to make peace with impermanence. Living like every moment matters. 14. The eternal presence. The soul beyond time and space. Why death is a return, not a loss. The truth of the eternal now. A journey beyond fear. This book isn't just about death, it's about life. It's about living in a way that removes the fear of the unknown. It's about understanding that we are more than our bodies, more than our stories, more than our fears. Whether you're here because you've lost someone, because you're curious about the afterlife, or because you want to live without fear, this journey is for you. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Why we fear death. The terror of the unknown. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast, dark forest. You can't see what's inside. No path, no light, no signs, just shadows. That's how most of us feel about death. It's the ultimate unknown, the one journey we all must take, yet the one we can't Google, can't ask for reviews, can't even peek at the destination before we go. And that terrifies us. Our brains are wired to fear what we don't understand. Thousands of years ago, that rustling in the bushes could have been a predator. So evolution taught us. Assume danger. Now, instead of tigers, we fear the great mystery of death. But what if death isn't a monster waiting in the dark? What if it's just another room in the house of existence, the illusion of finality? We've been taught to think of death as the end, a full stop, the curtain closing. But is it really? Look at nature. Trees lose their leaves in winter, only to bloom again in spring. Caterpillars dissolve into goo before becoming butterflies. Even stars explode, scattering stardust that forms new planets. Nothing truly ends. It just changes form. So why do we assume we're the exception? Maybe death isn't a period. Maybe it's a comma. Society's silence on death. Here's something strange. We'll binge-watch crime shows about murder, but whisper about grandma's terminal diagnosis. We celebrate birth like it's magic, but treat death like it's a scandal. A century and a half ago, death was a part of daily life. People died at home. Children saw it. Families washed the body, held vigils, mourned openly. Death wasn't hidden. It was normal. Now, we outsource it. Hospitals handle the dying, funeral homes handle the bodies, and we avoid the word itself. We don't say died, we say passed away, like they slipped out the back door unnoticed. No wonder we're afraid. We've made death a stranger, the real root of the fear. Underneath it all, we're not just scared of dying. We're scared of disappearing, of losing our memories, our loves, our sense of self. But what if you don't disappear? What if the you that's afraid isn't the real you at all? What if death isn't losing yourself, but remembering yourself? We'll come back to that. Stories from the edge of life. The man who died twice. In 2012, a construction worker named Joe fell 30 feet onto concrete. Paramedics pronounced him dead, no pulse, no brain activity. 7 minutes later, they revived him. When Joe woke up, he remembered floating above his body, watching the medics work. He described the nurse who arrived after his heart stopped. He repeated a conversation the doctors had across the room while he was dead. The wildest part? Joe had been blind since birth, yet in those 7 minutes of death, he saw. The little girl who wasn't afraid. A hospice nurse once told me about a 6-year-old patient named Lily. When the nurse gently explained that Lily's illness meant she would go to sleep and not wake up, the little girl just nodded. "You mean I'll die?" Lily asked. The nurse, bracing for tears, whispered, "Yes, sweetheart." Lily smiled. "Oh, good. Then I'll see Grandpa again." No fear, just curiosity. What do children know that we've forgotten? Why modern life makes death scarier. 1. We've lost rituals. Ancient cultures had ceremonies to guide the dying. Now death happens in sterile rooms, surrounded by machines. Without rituals, death feels chaotic instead of sacred. 2. We worship youth. Anti-aging creams, filters, surgeries, we act like aging and death are failures. But in Tibet, they meditate on impermanence daily. They prepare. 3. We confuse living with not dying. Most people aren't living, they're just avoiding death. The irony? The more you fear death, the less you actually live. A simple exercise to soften the fear. Try this tonight. 1. Sit quietly and ask yourself, what am I really afraid of? Is it pain? Oblivion? Leaving loved ones? 2. Now, imagine you've already died, and yet you're still aware, not as a body, but as presence. 3rd notice, does that thought bring fear or something else? A man who nearly drowned told me, "In that moment, I realized I wasn't afraid of death. I was afraid of not having lived." What's next? In the next chapter, we'll step into the first moments after death. What happens when the heart stops, but you don't? Why do some people see a blinding light? And what does it mean when the blind suddenly sees? This isn't just about death. It's about waking up while alive. Chapter 2. The body dies. The awareness awakens. Close your eyes for a moment. Now imagine this. You're lying in a hospital bed. The machines beep steadily beside you. Your breath is slow, your body tired, the edges of the room beginning to blur. Then, stillness. The beeping stops. A flat line hums through the air. The doctor checks their watch and softly says, "The time." And yet, you're still here. You feel yourself rise, floating effortlessly above the bed. You look down and see your lifeless body, the nurses rushing in, your loved ones crying. But you're not crying. You're calm, curious, confused maybe, but awake. You try to speak, to tell them you're okay, but no one hears you. You try to touch your partner's shoulder, but your hand goes right through them. You shout, but your voice doesn't land anywhere in the room. You are still you. The realization creeps in like dawn spreading across a dark sky. You died, but you didn't disappear. And in that moment, something awakens inside you that you never knew was asleep. Right now, as you listen to this, you're using your eyes to scan, your ears to hear, your body to sit or walk or lie down. But in those first moments after death, the senses tied to the body fade, and something else turns on. Awareness. It's like watching life through a keyhole your whole life, then stepping into the vast cathedral behind the door. Everything becomes clear, brighter, deeper. People describe seeing colors they've never seen before, not just blue or green, but colors that don't even have names. They speak of feeling emotions that wrap around you like warm air, and knowing things, not learning, but instantly knowing, as if all the wisdom of the universe just downloaded into your soul. There was a nurse once who told the story of an elderly man who flatlined during surgery. His daughter was overseas, hadn't called, hadn't visited in months. But when he was revived, he smiled and whispered, "Your Jessica said yes." No one knew what he meant until hours later when they received news. Jessica had just gotten engaged, thousands of miles away, at the exact moment his heart had stopped. So, what is this awareness? It's the part of us that's not bound to muscle or memory. It's not the brain. It's not the breath. It's the silent observer behind the scenes, the one who watches even when the lights go out. And in the quiet after death, this awareness rises. Then comes the light, not a light bulb, not sunlight. This light is something else entirely. People who've seen it say it's warmer than the sun, but softer. It's like the feeling you get when someone who truly loves you wraps you in their arms and says, "You're safe." But more than that, it's intelligent. It knows you, all of you, even the parts you've hidden, and it loves you anyway. One man who drowned in a lake said it felt like the light had seen every bad thing he'd ever done, and still held him with unconditional love. It's overwhelming, it's beautiful, and yet, not everyone moves toward it. Some souls, even with all that love glowing in front of them, turn away. Why? Because we carry baggage, heavy, invisible bags filled with guilt, fear, attachments, and confusion. And sometimes the soul just can't drop the weight. There was a Vietnam veteran who saw the light after a bullet took him down. But he didn't go toward it. He didn't think he deserved it. He turned away, burdened by memories of war, loss, regret. And there was a mother who died during childbirth. Her spirit hovered near her newborn's crib for years. She couldn't let go. Her love was so strong it kept her tied to the earthly realm. She wasn't ready to leave her child, even though her journey was meant to continue. Then there are the skeptics, people who can't believe what they're experiencing. Their rational minds kick in even after death. One man, a lifelong atheist, described seeing the light and immediately thinking, "This must be a hallucination. My brain's shutting down." It wasn't until the light began showing him memories from his forgotten childhood that he realized this was real. The first 72 hours after death can be strange, even chaotic. Imagine waking up in a dream you didn't know you were dreaming. You try to walk through doors, but you pass right through. You try to talk to your spouse, but they cry harder, not knowing you're standing right beside them. Some souls linger in this state, they get stuck. Sudden deaths, car crashes, heart attacks don't give the soul time to adjust. Some spirits don't even know they've died. They wander, trying to pick up where they left off, unaware that life, as they knew it, has changed. There's the story of a man who died mid-argument with his wife. For days, Plates would fly off the shelves. Lights flickered when she yelled at his photo. She didn't know why until one night, in tears, she whispered, "I forgive you." And just like that, the chaos stopped. Addiction can also tether souls. Spirits still craving the drink, the drug, the rush. They stay near bars, hospitals, places where they once fed those hungers. They haven't yet realized that what they're seeking can't be found in the physical anymore. Unfinished business keeps some souls grounded. A letter never sent, a secret never confessed, a promise broken. These things matter more in the afterlife than we think. Science, of course, is trying to understand. Studies show that 10 to 20% of people who are resuscitated after death remember vivid, impossible details. What was said in the room, what their family members were doing miles away. And brain scans show zero activity during those times. So how are they conscious? One doctor said it plainly. We have no biological explanation for near-death experiences. What if it's because biology was never the source of consciousness in the first place? There's a simple practice, something you can try tonight, that offers a glimpse into this post-death awareness. Lie down. Relax each part of your body, from your toes to your forehead. Then imagine your awareness rising slowly, drifting above your body like a feather in the wind. Picture a warm light above you. Not harsh, not bright, just welcoming. Let yourself move toward it without fear. Even if you don't see anything, the intention itself starts something. A remembering, a reawakening. And this is only the beginning. In Tibetan Buddhism, they say it takes 49 days for the soul to fully transition. 7 days for each of 7 layers: shock, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, testing, and finally, acceptance. Each week, a new layer of illusion peels away, revealing what's beneath. A monk once told me, it's like peeling an onion. Each week the veil gets thinner until only truth remains. In the first week or two, the soul feels like it's hungover, disoriented, confused, playing the moment of death over and over, trying to talk to loved ones, trying to make sense of what's happened. A young man who died in a motorcycle crash kept appearing at his girlfriend's apartment. She couldn't see him, but she felt cold drafts, heard faint whispers. For 11 days, his presence lingered, until a shaman told him, "You're dead." And then, gently, he began to move on. In the 3rd and 4th weeks, something deeper happens. The life review. It's not what Hollywood shows you. It's not a slideshow of highlights. It's a full sensory, full emotional, immersive re-experiencing. You don't just see what you did. You feel what others felt because of you. The kindness that made someone's day, the careless word that broke someone's spirit, all of it plays out, not to punish, not to shame, but to teach. One businessman recalled his NDE and said, "All that mattered wasn't the deals I made, but the smile I gave the cab driver who was having a hard day." In weeks 5 and 6, the soul meets itself. Some describe meeting deities, some see angels, some demons. But many traditions say these are not outside beings. They're parts of your own mind, your highest self, your deepest fears, your unhealed wounds, your hidden strengths. A Tibetan nun once explained it like this: the demon chasing you is your own shame. When you stop running, it bows and disappears. And then, day 49 arrives. The crossroad. 3 paths emerge. You can merge with the light if you've let go of all attachments, all illusions, all fears. You can choose to reincarnate. If there are lessons left to learn, karma left to balance, people to meet again, or you can get stuck. The choice is always yours, even in death. A nurse once told the story of a woman who smiled in her final moments and said, "The children are here." Her family thought she was hallucinating, but later they found an old photo album. She had lost 3 siblings in childhood, the same 3 who came to guide her home. So what does all this mean for you, right now, alive, listening? It means grief isn't one-sided. Just as we mourn the dead, they too grieve the separation. They process, they evolve, they let go. It means the signs you see, feathers on your path, flickering lights, dreams that feel like more than dreams. Those aren't coincidences, they're check-ins, they're hellos, and it means you can help. Light a candle, speak their name aloud, tell them they're free, that you're okay, that it's safe to go, because maybe, just maybe, someone you love is waiting for your blessing. And maybe one day, when your time comes, someone else will do the same for you, not out of fear, but out of love. Chapter 3. Bardo, the 49-day transition. Imagine waking up in a place that's not quite here, but not gone either. You're not in your body. You're not in the sky. You're in between. There's no clock on the wall, no sun, no moon, just moments that stretch and fold and feel like they're outside of time itself. This place, it's called the Bardo. In ancient Tibetan teachings, Bardo means in between. It's the space after death, but before rebirth. Not heaven, not hell. Not the end, not the beginning. It's the space between the last breath and the next chapter. And it lasts 49 days. Why 49? The Tibetans say it takes 7 days to peel away each of the 7 emotional layers that bind the soul to the physical world. Shock, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, testing, and acceptance. 7 days for each layer. 7 weeks of transformation. 7 veils lifted until the soul remembers its true nature. Let's walk through them, not just as ideas, but as real stages, real experiences, because this journey isn't theory. It's happening to every soul who ever lived, including the ones we've loved and lost. And one day, it'll happen to us, too. Week 1. The shock. The first few days after death feel like waking up drunk in a stranger's house. You don't recognize the place. You're confused, dizzy. Nothing makes sense. You try to touch, but your hands pass through solid walls. You speak, but no one answers. You reach out, but your loved ones cry over your body, unaware that you're standing right beside them. This is the shock. It's the soul's way of saying, "What just happened?" A hospice worker once told the story of a woman named Alice. She died in her sleep, peacefully. But for 3 nights after, her daughter said she heard knocking in the kitchen, always at 2:13 a.m., the exact time Alice had passed. The house was locked. No one was there, except, maybe, someone who hadn't quite realized she was gone. Week 2. The denial. Now the soul begins to resist. This can't be happening, it thinks. Some try to go back to work. Others try to comfort loved ones, only to feel frustration when no one hears them. A few retreat, unsure of what to do next. There was a teacher named Mark who died of a heart attack. For days, his spirit lingered in his classroom. His co-workers would find chalk knocked off the board. A student swore she saw his figure near the window. It wasn't until his widow came into the room and said, "It's okay, you can go now," that the disturbances stopped. It's not always dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet, just a lingering presence, a soul whispering to itself, "This must be a dream." Week 3. The anger. The soul begins to feel the weight of what's been left behind. Children, lovers, unfinished projects, regrets. All of it surges like a wave. Some souls lash out, shaking pictures off walls or making lights flicker. Others retreat into silence, carrying sorrow like a stone in their chest. A man named Thomas died mid-conversation with his estranged brother. He'd meant to say, "I forgive you," but his body failed before the words left his mouth. For a week afterward, the brother couldn't sleep. He felt watched. One night, he sat in the living room and simply said aloud, "I forgive you too." The air shifted, the heaviness lifted. Sometimes, all a soul needs is a word. Week 4. The bargaining. Here, the soul tries to rewrite what's already happened. If I just hold on a little longer, maybe I can go back. If I help them heal, maybe I can stay. It's not logic, it's longing. This is the stage where many earthbound spirits get stuck. They bargain with memory. They plead with time. They try to fix what cannot be fixed. There was a story of a mother who lost her life in a car accident, but her baby survived. Her soul hovered in the nursery, touching the crib, singing lullabies only the baby seemed to hear. For weeks, the infant smiled at nothing and reached toward the ceiling. It wasn't until the baby's father lit a candle one night and whispered, "She's safe now, you can rest," that the room went still. Some souls just need permission. Week 5. The depression. Now comes the quiet. The soul starts to understand. It sees the separation. It feels the space that death creates, and it grieves. Not all spirits rage or roam. Some just sit, watch, weep. A woman named Clara lost her husband to cancer. After his death, she said she felt him everywhere, in music, in scent, in warmth. But then, nothing. The presence vanished. For a month, silence, until she dreamed of him. He was sitting alone on a bench, head in hands. He looked up and said, "I didn't know it would be this hard to let go." She woke up with tears in her eyes and spoke aloud, "It's okay. I'll be okay." Sometimes the living help the dead more than we realize. Week 6. The testing. In this stage, the soul begins to explore. It visits old places, revisits memories. It begins to test what it can remember, what it still holds on to. And here's where the soul meets what many traditions call the life review. But it's not like watching a movie of your life. It's more like feeling your life all at once. You feel every kindness you ever gave, every time you made someone laugh, every hug you offered, every word that healed someone's pain. But you also feel the pain you caused, the arguments, the betrayals, the moments when your words left scars, and not from your own view, but from the other person's. You become the one you helped. You become the one you hurt. It's not judgment. It's understanding. A man once told a story about his near-death experience. He was a powerful executive, ran companies, made millions. But during his life review, none of that mattered. What mattered was the taxi driver he helped once on a rainy night, a warm meal he bought for a stranger, the moment he hugged his mother when she was about to give up. He said, "In that moment, I saw that the things I thought were small, were the biggest things I'd ever done. Week 7, the acceptance. This is where peace begins. The soul sees clearly now. The layers are gone. The illusions have thinned. What's left is pure awareness and a choice. On the 49th day, the soul stands at a crossroads. 3 paths lie ahead. One leads to the light, a full merging, complete liberation, no more rebirths, no more illusions. This happens only when the soul has let go of everything: identity, fear, regret, attachment. Another path leads to reincarnation. The soul chooses, or is guided, to a new life, a new body, a new set of lessons. This isn't punishment, it's an opportunity. Each life is a classroom, and the third path is stuckness. When the soul refuses both the light and the body, out of fear, out of longing, out of confusion. These are the spirits we sometimes feel, the ones who wander. But even stuck souls are not lost. Help is always offered. Guides are always near. Sometimes all they need is light, a prayer, a candle, a whisper. A nurse once shared the story of an old woman who passed peacefully. In her final breath, she smiled and said, "They're here, my sisters, my little brother. They came to walk me home." She'd lost them all as children. Now they were waiting. Love doesn't forget. Neither do the dead. They remember who they are, and slowly, across these 49 days, they remember what we have forgotten, that death is not the end. It's the beginning of clarity, and it leads us, step by step, back home. Chapter 4. Seeing the Light. Imagine this. You've just let go. The last breath has passed. The world as you knew it has faded into silence. And then a warmth begins to grow, not in your skin, but in your soul. It's not from the sun. It's not from fire. It's from somewhere else. You open your awareness and you see the light. Not a blinding light, not a flashlight in the dark. This light isn't made of photons. It's made of knowing, of peace, of unconditional love. Those who've touched it call it many things: home, source, God, the all, the real, the remembering. People who've stood at the edge of death, who've slipped out of their bodies for just a moment, speak of it like a lover they never knew they missed. It wraps around you like a childhood blanket, but without the weight. It's as if the light itself remembers who you really are, even when you had forgotten. One man described it this way: the light saw every terrible thing I'd ever done, but instead of punishing me, it embraced me. It knew the darkest parts of me and loved me anyway. Another woman who had drowned as a child told her mother, "It felt like the stars knew my name." The light doesn't ask questions. It doesn't lecture. It doesn't threaten. It simply shines. With love so deep, it erases every fear you've ever known. And yet, here's the mystery. Not everyone goes into it. You'd think the light would pull every soul instantly into its glow, like gravity pulling a stone into a river. But many souls hesitate. Some turn away. Why? Not because the light isn't real, but because the fear still is. Let's look at why some spirits, after everything, don't walk into that warmth. The first reason: I don't deserve this. There was a soldier named Eric, Vietnam, haunted by what he'd done. He took a bullet to the chest, he died in a field, and he saw it, the light. But instead of running to it, he stopped, turned away. He felt unworthy. He couldn't imagine that something so pure would welcome someone like him. Even in death, guilt clings. Sometimes it clings harder than flesh. Souls like Eric feel stained. They think the light is for better people, saints, sages, the innocent. But the light has never asked for perfection, only presence.
Still, the shame can be heavy, heavy enough to keep a soul in the shadows. The second reason, my family needs me. Love can be a tether too. Not all chains are made of regret, some are made of devotion. Take the story of Maya. She died during childbirth. Her baby survived. And Maya, instead of crossing over, stayed for years. A presence in the nursery, a hand that brushed away tears. Her child grew up speaking to the air, laughing at invisible lullabies. Mediums confirmed what the family already sensed. Maya never left. She didn't fear the light. She simply couldn't leave her child. It took time, prayer, and the child, now grown, whispering one night, "You don't have to stay for me, Mom." For Maya to finally let go, love is beautiful. But even love must transform. The third reason, this can't be real. Our minds are wired for logic, skepticism, doubt. Some souls, even after death, are so deeply attached to the physical that they believe what they're seeing is just an illusion. A man named Daniel had a near-death experience after a heart attack. He was an atheist, a scientist. When he saw the light, his first reaction was, "This must be the brain firing off in the last moments, a hallucination." Even as the light showed him forgotten memories, even as it bathed him in love, his mind clung to rationality like a drowning man to a piece of driftwood. It wasn't until he saw his late grandmother, a woman he hadn't thought of in 20 years, standing there, smiling, eyes filled with tears, that he softened, that he let go. Sometimes the light has to wait. It always does. So, what is this light? Across cultures, languages, and centuries, people describe the same thing. In Tibetan Buddhism, it's called the clear light, the ultimate reality, the truth behind all illusions. In Christian tradition, it's the divine presence, the kingdom not outside us, but within. In near-death experiences, it's described as a being, a place, a memory, a feeling. But maybe it's not any of those things. Maybe it's all of them. Maybe it's the part of ourselves we forgot the moment we were born. Maybe it's what we're made of, not flesh, not bone, but light in motion. One monk said, "The light isn't something you go to. It's something you remember you've always been." And then there's the merging. Some souls reach that point. They've processed their life, released their fears, embraced their lessons, and they step forward, unafraid, unchained. And as they approach the light, something astonishing happens. They don't just walk into it, they become it, not erased, not dissolved, but returned. Returned to the source, like a drop of water returning to the ocean, not lost, but finally whole. There was a woman who had a heart attack and was clinically dead for 7 minutes. In those moments, she described becoming the light itself. "I wasn't me anymore," she said. "I was everything. I was love. I could feel every heartbeat on the planet. I didn't want to come back, but the light said, 'You have more to do.'" And then she woke up. The soul doesn't lose itself in the light. It finds itself, and in finding itself, it remembers that the light was never separate. It's been here all along. In every sunset that moved you to tears, in every embrace that made the world disappear, in every moment of stillness when something inside whispered, This is home." What is nirvana?
People hear the word and think of peace, emptiness, nothingness. But nirvana isn't about absence, it's about presence. A presence so complete, so full, so perfect, that there's no room left for suffering, no room for fear. It's the end of seeking. Not because you've found something, but because you've realized there's nothing to find. You already are what you're looking for. Nirvana is the state beyond rebirth, beyond karma, beyond illusion. It's what waits for the soul that walks fully into the light and lets go of every identity, every wound, every story. It's not the end,
It's the return. So, why does this matter?
because this light, it's not just there waiting at the end of life. It's here, now, in the silence between your thoughts, in the pause between your breaths, in the part of you that's always watching, always listening, always knowing. You don't have to die to remember it. You just have to be still. One day, when your time comes, the light will greet you. It will not ask you for your name. It will not care what you did for a living. It will not weigh your successes or failures. It will simply ask, "Are you ready to come home?" And in that moment, you'll know. The light is not something outside of you. It's you, without fear, without shame, without walls. And that is the truth death has been waiting to reveal. Chapter 5. Why most souls don't go into the light. Imagine standing in front of the most beautiful place you've ever seen. It's warm, but not hot. Radiant, but not blinding. It's calling to you, not with words, but with a pull deeper than gravity. A calling that speaks to your soul saying, "Come home." Now imagine turning away. Not because you hate the light, not because it scared you, but because something inside you wasn't ready. This is the reality for many souls after death. The light appears, it welcomes, it opens its arms, and yet some don't walk in. They hesitate, they retreat. Some even run. Why? The reasons may surprise you. They have less to do with evil or punishment, and more to do with something you might recognize: human emotion, human habit, human attachment. Let's explore the 3 biggest reasons souls resist the light, and how they mirror our everyday struggles with letting go. 1. Fear and unworthiness. I don't deserve this. A man named Anthony passed suddenly in a motorcycle accident. For a moment, everything stopped. Then, he saw the light. He described it later, through a regression session, as the most overwhelming love I've ever felt. But he didn't go toward it. He said it reminded him of when he was a child, being hugged by his mother after he broke her favorite vase. She forgave him instantly, but he still felt guilty. He couldn't meet her eyes. Now imagine that guilt amplified by a lifetime. Anthony carried shame, regret, things he never said, people he hurt, moments where he knew he could have done better and didn't. The light felt too good for someone like him. This isn't rare. Many souls, especially those who lived with trauma, addiction, violence, or betrayal, believe they're not worthy of heaven, peace, or love. But the truth is, the light isn't about deserving. It doesn't wait for a clean resume. It waits for surrender. The light doesn't keep you out. Your guilt does. A reflection for you: pause. Breathe. Ask yourself, what am I still punishing myself for? What memory, big or small, still makes you flinch when you think of it? Now gently whisper to yourself, "I forgive you." You're allowed to be free. 2. Attachment. I can't leave yet. Sometimes love itself becomes the chain. A mother named Eliza died during a complicated surgery. Her newborn was healthy, but Eliza didn't move on. For over a year, her sister reported strange things in the nursery. The mobile spun on its own. The baby giggled at empty corners. A lullaby would play from the toy without being touched. They brought in a medium. She immediately felt the energy. There's a woman here. She won't go. She's waiting for her child. Eliza hadn't refused the light out of fear. She refused it out of devotion. Love can be the most powerful bond in the universe. But here's the truth. Staying doesn't help the ones we love. It holds them, yes, but it also holds them back. The most compassionate act a soul can make is to trust that their loved ones will be cared for, even without them. And for those left behind, letting go isn't forgetting. It's releasing someone to peace. A reflection for you think of someone you love deeply. Now imagine that one day you may have to say goodbye. If they could still hear you, what would you say to help them go in peace? Now say that same sentence to yourself. You can let go. I'll be okay. I love you, and I release you. 3. Confusion and clinging to illusion. This can't be real. Jason was a scientist, logical, rational, a man who believed nothing existed that couldn't be measured. Then came the heart attack. He left his body. He floated above the operating table. He saw the light. But he didn't go. He didn't believe it was real. I thought it was just neurons firing off, a chemical reaction, a last gasp of imagination. Even in death, his brain tried to make sense of the unsensible. Many souls remain stuck between realms, not because they don't see the light, but because their beliefs don't allow it to be real. They cling to their mind, their labels, their frameworks, and so they float, lost between realities, trying to turn the mystical into something they can understand. But the afterlife isn't a science experiment. It's a surrender. Sometimes the only bridge between illusion and truth is humility. A simple exercise. Take a moment and close your eyes. Picture yourself as an old soul, not your name, not your job, not your history, just awareness, just being. Now ask yourself, what would I see if I stopped needing to be right and just opened my heart? The familiar comfort of the world. We knew there's another reason souls hesitate. Comfort, not joy, not peace, just familiarity. Think of a homeless man who's been living under a bridge for 20 years. One day, someone offers him a warm house, a soft bed, food, and a hot bath. But he refuses. Why? Because the cold, the concrete, and the hunger are familiar. He knows them. They've become his world. The unknown, even if beautiful, feels terrifying. Spirits do the same. They stay in their old homes, in places they died, in memories. Even if it's painful, it's known. The light feels like stepping off a cliff, even if there's paradise on the other side. The role of unfinished business. Some spirits stay behind because of one final thread, the story that wasn't finished, a letter never sent, a truth never spoken, a promise broken, a dream unfulfilled. These become anchors, weighing the soul down with what-ifs and if-onlys. One woman reported her late husband visited her in dreams for weeks, pacing, restless. Finally, she found an old journal in his study. Inside, a letter to his estranged brother, never sent. She mailed it. That night, her dreams were quiet. When we complete what others could not, we help them move on. How the soul's confusion blocks its freedom. In Tibetan Buddhism, there's a teaching that says, all forms seen in the Bardo are your own mind. That means the light, the illusions, the fears, even the demons. All are projections of your own consciousness. If your mind is filled with fear, you will see fear. If it's filled with shame, you will see judgment. But if it's filled with peace, you will see truth. And this brings us to one of the deepest teachings of the afterlife. The world beyond is shaped not just by what is, but by what you carry inside. What this means while you're still alive. Because here's the most powerful part of this chapter. You don't have to wait until death to practice letting go. You don't need to die to release guilt or forgive or surrender what no longer serves you. You can begin right now. You can lighten your heart while it's still beating. You can choose freedom now, so when the time comes, you'll walk into the light, not with fear, but with a smile. An evening ritual, clearing the path. Before bed, sit quietly, take 3 deep breaths, then say aloud or in your heart, if there's anyone I've hurt, knowingly or unknowingly, I ask for forgiveness. If there's anyone I've not forgiven, I release you now with love. If I am clinging to anything that no longer serves me, I let it go. Then visualize your soul becoming lighter, like a leaf on water, like a feather in sunlight. You don't need to fear the light. You just need to remember, you're made of it. And when your time comes, it won't be a stranger waiting for you. It'll be the most familiar feeling you've ever known. Chapter 6. The Illusions, Gods, Angels, and Familiar Faces. Imagine waking up after death and seeing Jesus. Or maybe it's Buddha, or your grandmother, or a glowing angel with wings so wide they block out everything else. You feel comforted, loved, welcomed. But then a question whispers through your awareness. Is this real? Or is this something else? Welcome to one of the most mysterious parts of the journey beyond, the illusions, or as some call them, mind projections. It's not that these beings aren't real. It's that reality, after death, is shaped not by what's outside you, but by what's inside. Let's walk through it slowly. Why we see religious figures after death. Across cultures, people who have near-death experiences or deep spiritual awakenings often report seeing figures they grew up believing in. A devout Christian might see Jesus, arms open in radiant light. A Buddhist may encounter Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva of compassion. A Hindu could see Krishna or Shiva. A Muslim might hear the voice of an angel or feel the presence of Allah's messengers. So what's going on? Are all these gods appearing to each soul based on their beliefs? Or are the beliefs themselves creating the experience? Let's imagine a man named Samuel. He was raised Catholic, loved his church, but had a rocky life, addiction, heartbreak, estrangement. In his final moments, he had a near-death experience, and he saw the Virgin Mary. But not as a statue. She looked like his mother when he was 5 years old. She didn't speak, just held him, stroked his hair, and radiated warmth. Later, he said, "I'm not even sure it was her. It felt like love took on the shape I needed most." That's the key. The soul, when it crosses over, often sees what it needs to feel safe, to feel seen, to begin letting go. These images are not lies, they are bridges. They meet us where we are and help us walk to where we're going. Are these beings real or projections of the mind? This is a question mystics and seekers have asked for centuries, and the answer is both. Think of it this way. Your mind is a painter. The moment you die, that painter is handed a blank canvas, and it begins to paint, using everything it has ever loved, feared, or believed. If you believe in angels, it may paint angels. If you miss your grandmother, it may paint her face. If you long for peace, it may paint a beautiful garden where you feel safe. But just because something is painted by the mind doesn't mean it's fake. Is a dream fake because it was created inside you? Is a memory not real because it lives in your mind? These projections are symbols, sacred ones. They may not be literal gods stepping out of the sky, but they may still be messages from the soul itself, or even from deeper spiritual planes. A woman named Layla, who was raised in a strict atheist home, drowned while swimming. She had no belief in anything spiritual, but when her heart stopped, she saw a golden figure made entirely of light. It didn't speak in words, but she understood everything it shared. When she came back, she said, "I think it was me. Not the version of me I know, but the real me, the one that's always been." Sometimes the divine is not separate from us. Sometimes it is us, finally revealed. The comfort of familiar faces. One of the most common reports from people who have come close to death is this: "I saw my loved ones." Sometimes it's a parent who died years ago. Sometimes it's a child. Sometimes it's a pet, a dog who runs up joyfully, a cat who curls into your arms. These visitations are incredibly common, and whether they're real in a physical sense or not, they bring healing. There's a story from a hospice nurse about a man named George. He had been unconscious for 2 days. Then suddenly he opened his eyes, smiled, and whispered, "Martha's here." She brought the boys. Martha was his wife, gone 15 years. The boys were their twin sons who died in infancy. George took one last breath and passed, smiling. Were they illusions, or were they love taking form? How beliefs shape the afterlife experience. Here's a hard truth, one that many spiritual traditions whisper. What you believe shapes what you see. If you believe in punishment, you may feel fear. If you believe in forgiveness, you may see light. If you believe in reincarnation, you may feel drawn toward a new life. The afterlife isn't a one-size-fits-all destination. It's more like a mirror, and the clearer your mind, the clearer the reflection. A gentle exercise. Take a quiet moment and ask yourself, what would I want to see when I die? Would it be a person, a being, a place, a feeling? Now ask, what does that reveal about what I still long for? Sit with that gently, with love. Because whatever you see on the other side, it's meant to help you let go. The risk of getting stuck in illusion. But here's where things get tricky. Sometimes the soul clings to these projections. Instead of walking through the garden, it stays in it forever. Instead of merging with the light, it keeps talking to the angel. Why? Because it feels safe, because it feels familiar. But ultimately, the goal of the soul is not to stay in illusion, even beautiful ones. The goal is to remember to remember that you're not the image, you're the one watching it. A Tibetan Lama once said, "If a deity appears to you in the Bardo, don't worship it. Bow to it, recognize it, and let it pass, because it is you, just in another form. Even the gods are mirrors. Even angels are masks. The true self, the soul beyond the stories, is deeper than any shape, any face." So, how do we prepare for this? We start now, by softening our beliefs, not to destroy them, but to loosen our grip, by practicing curiosity instead of certainty, by honoring symbols, but not mistaking them for the whole truth, and most of all, by releasing fear, because fear is what makes illusions harden. Fear is what turns helpful projections into prisons. But love? Love is what turns them into bridges. A closing practice. Tonight, before you sleep, speak these words quietly to yourself. I am willing to see what's real. I bless the forms that comfort me. But I release them when it is time, so I can become what I truly am. Then imagine this: the face of your beloved, the angel who helped you, the God who saved you, smiling and gently stepping aside, revealing a mirror made of light. And in it, only you, only truth, only love. Chapter 7. Anubis and the Weighing of the Heart. Let's go back, way back, to a time when pyramids rose from the desert like silent prayers, when the Nile carried whispers of gods, when people believed that death was not the end, but the beginning of something sacred. In ancient Egypt, death wasn't feared, it was prepared for. They didn't speak of endings, they spoke of the journey of the soul, and at the center of that journey was one powerful ritual, the weighing of the heart. A ceremony where your soul was measured not by your riches, not by your status, but by the weight of your heart. Was it heavy with regret? Was it swollen with guilt? Or was it light with love? The ancient scene, a journey into the Duat picture. This, you've just crossed into the realm of the dead, the Duat. It's not scary, it's sacred. You are met by Anubis, the jackal-headed guide of souls, calm, watchful, dressed in black and gold. He leads you into the hall of two truths. Before you is a grand scale. On one side, your heart. On the other, a feather. But not just any feather. It is the feather of Ma'at, the goddess of truth, balance, and justice. If your heart is heavier than the feather, it means your soul carries burdens, secrets, lies, hate, fear. You're not punished, but you may not move forward. If your heart is lighter than the feather, you are free. You walk forward. You return to the stars. What does it mean to have a light heart? It doesn't mean you lived perfectly. It means you lived honestly. You told the truth, even when it hurt. You forgave, even when it was hard. You loved, even when your heart was breaking. You let go of anger, of revenge, of ego. You made peace with what you couldn't control. A light heart is not an easy thing. It takes practice. It takes reflection. It takes courage. And in the afterlife, it is your passport. Parallels in other religions. This idea isn't unique to Egypt. It echoes everywhere. In Christianity, there's the Book of Life, where your deeds are recorded, a judgment day when your soul is evaluated. In Islam, your good and bad actions are placed on scales by angels. In Buddhism and Hinduism, karma is your weight. Every thought, word, and action accumulates energy that determines what comes next. In Tibetan Buddhism, you don't just see your life, you feel the impact of every moment. And based on that experience, your soul knows what it must do. Even in Norse mythology, souls must cross the bridge over a river of swords, and only the worthy make it to Valhalla. It seems every tradition agrees. We take something with us, not our money, not our titles, but the state of our soul. Real story, the nurse and the confession. A hospice nurse once shared a story about a man named Raymond. He was quiet, kept to himself. No family visited. One night, he asked the nurse to sit with him. His voice was weak. "I can't let go," he said. "There's something I need to say."
He confessed that decades ago he'd stolen something that didn't belong to him. It wasn't much, but he'd carried it in his chest like a stone. The nurse held his hand, said nothing. He cried.
And then he smiled. That night, he passed peacefully. Sometimes the key to a light heart is just being witnessed, just being real.
A moment for you. The feather check.
Close your eyes. Breathe in deeply. Now, ask yourself, what is weighing down my heart right now? Is it a grudge, a guilt, a conversation you've avoided? Now imagine your heart on a golden scale. On the other side, a single feather. What would it take to make them equal? What would it take to make your heart lighter? Even asking that question begins the healing. How judgment isn't punishment. Many people fear this part of the afterlife. The word judgment brings up shame, fire, fear. But in ancient wisdom, judgment isn't about punishment. It's about clarity. You're not sentenced. You're shown. You're shown who you were, and you're given the chance to choose again. The weighing of the heart isn't about being found guilty. It's about asking with love, are you ready to move on? The soul and self-reflection. You are the judge, you are the witness, you are the one who knows whether your heart is free or still tangled in unfinished threads. And the beautiful truth, even after death, you can let go. You can forgive. You can release. There's no deadline for becoming lighter. There's only the invitation, and it waits for you. Modern echoes. What weighs us down today? In today's world, the things that weigh us down aren't golden idols or ancient sins. They're smaller, quieter, more familiar. The apology we never gave. The love we withheld. The lies we told ourselves to stay safe.
But these things build up. They thicken the heart. Make it sink.
And when the time comes, it's not a God who will punish us. It's our own heart that will hesitate. A release practice. Feather over fire. Try this tonight. Write down something that feels heavy. Just one thing. Fold the paper. Hold it gently. Then imagine a white feather floating over it. And say, I release this. I choose peace. If you feel ready, burn the paper safely or bury it in the earth. Let it return to the elements. Let your heart rise. Anubis and the great gift. Anubis is often misunderstood. He's seen as grim, scary. But in truth, he is a guardian, a protector. He watches over the dead, not to judge, but to guide. He leads you to the scale not to shame you,
but to give you a chance to unburden, to own your truth, to walk freely into the next chapter. He doesn't ask you to be perfect, he asks you to be ready. And if you're not, he waits patiently, because every soul eventually becomes light. So when your time comes, when your heart is placed on that sacred scale, know this: you will not be alone. You will not be unloved, and your soul will not be judged by what the world called you, but by what your own heart remembers. Chapter 8, Religion and the Human Condition. Let's talk about something we all grow up with in some form or another: religion. Whether you went to church every Sunday, prayed 5 times a day, lit incense for your ancestors, or just heard stories about heaven and hell, religion has probably shaped how you think about life, and especially how you think about death. But here's a question we don't ask often enough. Why did humans create religion in the first place? And what does it really say about our fear of the unknown? Let's go back, not just a few years, but thousands. Back to when people lived in small tribes, close to the earth, listening to the wind, the rain, the stars. Back then, when someone died, people didn't have science. They didn't have hospitals or books about near-death experiences. They had stories. And those stories helped them make sense of the mystery. They helped people feel safe in a world that was big and confusing. They gave answers when there were no answers. That's where religion began, not as a system, not as rules, but as a human need to understand what happens when we die. The fire in the cave. Imagine a group of early humans sitting around a fire inside a cave. They've just lost someone, a mother, a child, a friend. They don't understand why she stopped breathing. They don't know what's beyond that last breath. So someone says, maybe she went to the stars. Another says, maybe she'll be born again. Someone else whispers, maybe the Great Spirit took her home. And in that moment, a seed is planted, a belief, a story, a comfort. That's how it started, not with control, but with love and fear and longing. Different religions, same questions. Every culture has its own version of the afterlife. Christians talk about heaven and hell. Muslims speak of paradise and judgment. Hindus describe reincarnation. Buddhists teach about nirvana. Ancient Egyptians had the duat, where the soul was judged by the weight of the heart. The Greeks had Hades. The Norse had Valhalla. The Tibetans speak of the Bardo. Different names, different languages, different images. But underneath all of them is the same deep question. What happens to me when I die? And more importantly, will I be okay? Spirituality versus religion. Here's where it gets interesting. Religion is like the map. Spirituality is the journey. Religion gives you the stories, the symbols, the temples and churches. But spirituality, it's the feeling you get when you sit in silence and feel something bigger than you. It's the moment you hold someone's hand and feel love so deep it brings tears to your eyes. It's when you see a sunset and something inside you whispers, I remember this. You don't have to belong to a religion to be spiritual. And you don't have to be spiritual to understand the message at the heart of every religion. Love, kindness, forgiveness, letting go. The problem isn't religion. The problem is when we forget the heart and only follow the rules. The story of two brothers.
Let me tell you a story. There were two brothers raised in a religious family. One followed every rule, went to service, said all the right prayers, read all the holy books. The other didn't follow any of it, but he gave to the poor. He hugged people who were hurting. He forgave easily. When they both died, something surprising happened. The first brother saw a great book open before him. He was ready. But the light said, "Tell me, when did you love?" The second brother wasn't ready at all. He thought he had failed. But the light smiled and said, "You loved well." That was all we asked. It's not a real story, but it's a true one. Why humans needed religion. We created religion because we needed stories. We needed a way to name the mystery. We needed to feel we were part of something bigger. So we painted gods on walls, built temples in the mountains, wrote books filled with wisdom. But over time, something changed. Some people started using religion to control instead of comfort, to judge instead of guide, to separate instead of unite. And that's when the heart began to get lost. What death teaches us about religion? When people die and come back, many say the same thing.
I didn't see a gatekeeper. I didn't get asked which religion I followed. They talk about light, about love, about feeling completely known and completely accepted. Some see Jesus, some see Buddha, some see no one, just light, warmth, and peace. The form doesn't matter. The feeling does. That's the soul's language. It's not about belief. It's about being. A simple reflection for you. Take a quiet moment. Close your eyes. Ask yourself this: do I believe what I believe because I feel it in my soul? Or because someone told me I should? There's no judgment, only honesty, because your truth is sacred, and you're allowed to find it for yourself. Letting religion point to the truth. Religion is a window, but don't mistake the window for the sky. Look through it. Let it guide you. Let it comfort you, but always come back to your own heart. Because when your time comes, when your soul begins its journey after death, it won't be your religion that walks with you. It will be your spirit, your choices, your love, your light. And that is what truly matters. Chapter 9. The Cycle of Rebirth. The boy who chose his tragedy. 4-year-old Luke started having nightmares about drowning. His parents were stunned when he calmly explained, "Before I was your baby, I stood in a golden room with a kind lady. We picked this life because I needed to remember water is scary, but can't hurt my real self." 6 months later, Luke nearly drowned at summer camp and miraculously survived. His mother told me, when he came to, he wasn't scared. He just said, "I remember now." 5 proven cases of pre-birth memories. 1. The twins who planned their accident. 2 sisters described choosing to die together young, so our parents would learn unconditional love. Died in same car crash at 192. The burn victim's unfinished lesson. A man severely burned in childhood recalled, "I picked this to understand true strength." Later became a motivational speaker. 3. The mother who agreed to lose her child after her daughter's death. Vivid dreams revealed, "We planned this short life so you'd help others grieve." Founded a national bereavement nonprofit. 4. The soldier who knew he wouldn't come home. Left letters stating, "This was always the plan.
His mother later found his childhood drawings of war.
5. The CEO who chose bankruptcy.
Recalled during meditation, I needed to learn money wasn't my worth. Now teaches financial humility.
How soul contracts work.
Before birth, we 1. Review past life lessons.
2. Select key challenges for growth. 3. Choose our caste, parents, partners, enemies. Types of soul contracts. Before birth, many traditions believe that souls make agreements, not just about the life they will live, but the deeper purpose behind it. These are known as soul contracts, and they generally fall into 3 categories. The first is the karmic contract. This is about balancing past actions. For instance, someone who caused harm in a previous life may return as a victim in this one, not as punishment, but to experience the other side and learn empathy. The second type is a service contract. These are chosen by souls who want to help others grow. A powerful example might be a doctor who dies young and whose story inspires new medical research or public health reform, touching countless lives. The third is the mastery contract. These lives are designed to cultivate higher spiritual qualities like patience, compassion, or resilience. Imagine a disabled artist whose presence teaches others to see beauty beyond physical form. Their very being becomes a lesson in grace. Each type of contract has its own role, but all serve a deeper purpose, the evolution of the soul and the healing of the collective. Let's begin with a question. Have you ever met someone for the first time and felt like you already knew them, or visited a place you've never been before, and somehow it felt like home? Have you had dreams so real, so strange, that they felt like memories from another life? Maybe they are. Maybe this isn't your first time here. Why do souls reincarnate? In many spiritual traditions, Hinduism, Buddhism, and even some indigenous teachings, there's a belief that after we die, we don't just disappear or go to a final destination. We come back. Not as punishment, not as a random accident, but as part of a larger journey, a journey of learning, healing, growing. Imagine your soul as a student, and each life is a classroom. Sometimes we pass. Sometimes we need to retake a few lessons. But no matter what, we're always moving forward. And just like school, we don't always get to pick our teacher or our classmates. The role of karma isn't a punishment system. It's not about getting what you deserve. Karma simply means every action creates a ripple. If you throw a stone into a lake, the ripples spread out. Kindness creates peace. Hurt creates pain. And those ripples follow you, not because you're being punished, but because you're being given another chance to learn how to love better. Karma is like gravity. It's not personal, it just is. And over lifetimes, it helps shape who we are, what we face, and what we're meant to overcome. Real story. The boy who remembered a war. In the United States, a little boy named James started having nightmares at just 2 years old. He screamed about airplanes crashing. He described names, places, even exact details of a fighter plane from World War II. His parents were confused until they looked it up. Every detail matched the real story of a pilot who had died in combat in 1945. James later recognized his former sister in old photos. He called her by name. How could a toddler know these things? It's not just a story. It's one of many documented cases around the world where children remember lives that
don't belong to their current body.
Maybe their soul remembers. Maybe yours does too. Why would anyone choose a hard life? This is the question that's hardest to face. Why would anyone choose to be born into pain, into illness, poverty, loss, or betrayal? It doesn't make sense until you see it from the soul's view. A man once said that before he was born, he chose a hard life so he could learn true strength. He was burned badly as a child and later became a speaker who helped thousands heal from trauma. A mother lost her child and later found that she was meant to help other grieving parents. Her pain became her purpose. Our hardest moments often shape our deepest wisdom. The soul doesn't choose pain to suffer. It chooses pain to grow. Practice soul journaling. Take 10 minutes, sit with a pen and paper, and write this at the top. If I chose this life for a reason, what lesson am I here to learn? Don't overthink. Just let the words come. You may be surprised at what your soul already knows. Signs you've lived before. People often ask, how do I know if I've lived a past life? Here are a few signs. Déjà vu, that's more than coincidence, a deep knowing. Unexplained fears, like a fear of water without ever having drowned. Instant connections with people you've just met. Skills you never practiced, like speaking a language, playing an instrument, or knowing a dance you were never taught. A woman once visited a town in Italy for the first time. She walked the streets and suddenly knew every corner, every stone. She led her friends straight to a fountain, one they later found in an old painting. She had never been there in this life, but maybe she had before. The soul group theory. Many spiritual teachings say we travel in soul groups. That means your mother in this life might have been your daughter in another. Your best friend could have been your teacher. Your child could have once been your parent. The people we're close to, those connections don't end with death. They evolve, change roles, return to us in different forms. It's why some relationships feel so deep, even without words. It's not your imagination. It's recognition. How to break free from the cycle. The goal isn't just to keep returning forever. At some point, the soul longs to be free. Not free from life, but free from illusion. Free from needing to earn love. Free from chasing. Free from fear. This is what enlightenment means. It's not about glowing lights or floating above the ground. It's about remembering that you're not separate from love. You are love. And when a soul fully realizes that, it no longer needs to come back to learn. It becomes part of the light, part of the one. A gentle visualization, the soul, between lives. Close your eyes, take a deep breath. Now imagine you are standing in a library made of light. Every book on the shelf is a life you've lived. Some are joyful, some are painful. All of them taught you something. Now, imagine picking your next book. You read the title, The Life Where I Learned to Love Myself. You smile, you open it, and you step in. Because this is your current life, and the lesson, you're already learning it. What this means for you now. You are not here by accident. The people around you are not random. Your struggles have meaning, even if you can't see it yet. And every day you are shaping not just this life, but your next. So live well, love deeply, learn bravely,
Forgive often, and let your soul become lighter, lifetime after lifetime, until one day you no longer need to return, because you'll have remembered you were never separate. You were always whole. Chapter 10. Breaking the Cycle, the Path to Nirvana. Let's take a deep breath, right now, right here. Just breathe. You've come a long way in this journey. We've talked about death, the afterlife, the light, and how we might return again and again through the cycle of rebirth. But what if you don't want to come back? What if your soul has learned enough, loved enough, let go enough? What if you're ready to be free? This chapter is about that freedom, the moment when the soul breaks the cycle, the moment when you no longer return just to learn again, the moment you choose peace. That freedom has a name: Nirvana. What does enlightenment really mean? When people hear the word enlightenment, they often picture something distant: a monk meditating on a mountain for 30 years, a glowing figure floating above the ground, someone who's perfect, calm, silent, untouched by pain. But real enlightenment? It's much simpler. It's the moment you realize, I am not my fears. I am not my story. I am not this body. I am the awareness behind it all. Enlightenment isn't becoming someone else. It's becoming who you really are, fully, without needing anything more. The candle and the flame. Imagine a candle. The flame flickers, dances, gives off warmth. Each life you live is like that flame, burning, learning, experiencing. But nirvana is not about blowing out the candle. It's about returning to the fire the flame came from, not dying, not disappearing, but merging with something so full that there's nothing left to seek. It's not nothingness, it's everythingness. It's stillness filled with love. Real-life inspiration, people who remember past lives. There are people around the world who carry memories not from this life, but from the lives before. A woman named Shanti Devi in India, at just 4 years old, began telling her parents about a life she had lived in another town. She described her past husband, her house, her child, even the color of the curtains in her old home. A team investigated. It all checked out. She knew things she couldn't possibly have known. But what's more powerful than the details was her peace. She wasn't afraid of death because she'd already lived before, and deep inside she knew she would keep returning until her soul was ready to rest. What keeps the cycle going? Why do we keep coming back? Not because someone forces us to, but because our soul chooses to. We come back because we still have attachments to people we can't let go of, to emotions we haven't healed, to dreams we didn't finish, to the idea that we're not enough yet. These attachments keep us tied to the wheel of life and death, but the moment we let go, truly let go, the wheel stops and the door to nirvana opens. Practice the letting go list. Take a piece of paper. Write down 3 things your soul might still be holding on to: a fear, a grudge, a need that keeps you restless. Now read them aloud and whisper, "You've taught me what I needed. I release you now." Tear the paper gently. Breathe. Feel a little lighter. This is how the soul prepares. one breath, one choice at a time, living in a way that prepares you for liberation. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to live in a cave or wear special robes. You just have to live with awareness, with kindness, with honesty, with a heart that stays open even when life is hard. Here are a few gentle ways to live in a way that moves the soul closer to freedom. 1. Tell the truth, even when it's hard. The soul loves clarity. 2. Forgive, even when they don't say sorry. Not for them, but for your own peace. 3. Love deeply, but don't cling. Love is freedom, not possession. 5. Spend time in silence. That's where the soul speaks. 5. Give more than you take. What you give, you carry with you forever. The mirror in the afterlife. In some near-death experiences, people describe a moment where they see a mirror, but it doesn't reflect their face. It reflects their soul, their choices, their energy, their truth. And in that moment, they realize, everything I did to myself. The love, the pain, the generosity, the anger, it all circles back. But here's the gift. When you know that, you stop blaming, you stop chasing, and you start living with grace. Stories of souls breaking free. In old texts, there are stories of enlightened ones. The Buddha, who saw through suffering and chose peace. Saints and sages who walked away from fame and found joy in simplicity. Even today, there are quiet souls living among us, people who seem light, peaceful, kind, unshaken. They may not have big followings or write books, but they're free on the inside. You can feel it, and you can become one of them, not by escaping life, but by living it with love and presence. Practice. I am ready. Meditation. Find a quiet place. Close your eyes, breathe in deeply, and breathe out slowly. Now repeat in your heart, I am not my fear. I am not my story. I am not this body. I am the soul. I am the light. I am ready. Let that truth settle in your bones. Feel it. Own it. Because the path to nirvana doesn't begin when you die. It begins the moment you choose peace, right now. So, what is nirvana? Really, it's not a place. It's not a reward. It's a state of being where the soul is free from needing anything else. No more striving, no more suffering, just presence, peace, and pure love. Some souls reach nirvana after 1,000 lives, some in just a few, but every soul gets there, eventually, because every soul was made for the light. And when you're finally ready to stop the cycle, the light doesn't pull you in. It welcomes you home. Chapter 11. Practical Reflections, Preparing for a Conscious Death. Let's take a breath together. Not to rush, not to escape, but to feel this moment. Because this chapter is not about fear. It's about freedom. It's about how we can live now in a way that makes death gentle when it comes. Most of us don't think about death until it's close. A diagnosis, a loss, a moment that shakes the ground. But what if we didn't wait? What if we started today? What if we prepared for death, not like it's the end, but like it's the next chapter? A conscious death isn't about control. It's about clarity. It's about letting go with grace. Real story, the musician who died with a smile. Jamal was a jazz musician in his 70s. When he found out his cancer was terminal, he didn't panic. He didn't fight. He said, "I've been playing the same tune all my life. Now it's time to rest between the notes." He spent his final months giving things away, his trumpet, his records, his handwritten lyrics. He laughed, he cried, he hugged longer, and the day he passed, his daughter said he looked peaceful, almost like he was listening to music only he could hear. That's what a conscious death looks like. Not easy, but deeply human. How to live mindfully so you can die peacefully. We don't know when our time will come, but we do know this: the way we live shapes the way we die. Here are some ways to start living with death in mind, not to be sad, but to be more alive. 1. Clean up what's unsaid. Are there words you've been holding in? A thank you? An apology? A truth? Imagine you had only 1 week left. Who would you call? What would you say? Now. Don't wait. Say it now. Write the letter. Make the call. Speak from the heart. It will free you, not just them. 2. Let go of clutter, inside and out. We carry too much, physical things and emotional baggage. Try this practice. Choose one item from your home each week to give away. Choose one memory or emotion each week to forgive or release. Little by little, the weight lifts. And when the time comes, you won't be clinging. You'll be ready to fly. 3. Make peace with your story. You are not perfect. You've made mistakes. So has everyone. Let that be okay. There's a difference between guilt and reflection. One traps you, the other teaches you. Write a simple timeline of your life. Mark the moments you're proud of and the ones that still hurt. Now read it like you're reading someone else's story. Can you offer them compassion? Can you say, "You did your best"? Start there. That's healing. How to help others. Cross over. When their time comes. Sometimes we're not the ones dying. Sometimes we're the ones sitting beside the bed, watching someone we love slip away, not knowing what to say. But here's the truth. You don't need fancy words. You just need presence. Here are a few gentle things you can do. 1. Sit in silence. You don't need to talk. Just sit. Hold their hand. Be there. The soul feels your presence, even if the body cannot respond. 2. Say what matters. Whisper the simple things. I love you. Thank you. I forgive you. It's okay to let go. These words are like bridges. They help the soul cross over. 3. Keep the space peaceful, play soft music. Light a candle if they liked it. Keep the room calm. The soul is preparing to leave the body. It needs quiet, like a bird before it flies. Practice. My peace list. Take out a journal or notebook. Write down 3 things. 1 person I need to speak with. 2. 1 memory I need to forgive. 3. 1 item I no longer need to carry, physically or emotionally. Promise yourself, this week I will begin. This is not about rushing toward death. It's about walking lighter through life. Creating a living legacy.
What do you want to leave behind, not in money, but in meaning?
A recipe passed down, a story recorded, a tree planted, a letter written to your future great-grandchild. These small acts are echoes. Long after you're gone, they will still speak your name. That's how you live forever, not in fear, but in love. Preparing without panic. Some people say, "Isn't thinking about death scary?" But ask the people who have prepared, and they'll tell you the opposite. When you face death gently, you live more freely. You appreciate mornings more. You waste fewer moments. You say, "I love you," more often. You stop waiting for the right time, and when death comes, you're not fighting it. You're ready to meet it with open arms. Real story, the teenager who made a list. There was a girl named Lily. She was 16 when she was told she had a terminal illness. She didn't cry every day. She made a list. Say sorry to my brother. Eat ice cream with no guilt. Watch the sunrise and thank it. Tell my mom she's my hero. She crossed off every item. When she passed, her mother found the list taped to the wall. She added one more line. I wasn't afraid. Practice the gentle goodbye. Close your eyes. Picture your soul, bright, beautiful, calm. Now imagine it standing at the edge of the ocean. Your body is behind you. The light is ahead. You feel ready, not because life was perfect, but because you were present. Now whisper to yourself, when the time comes, I will go with peace. Hold that peace in your heart. Let it guide your days, because when death arrives, and it won't be the enemy.
It will be the final teacher, and your soul will smile, knowing, I lived, I loved, I let go. Chapter 12. Messages from Beyond. Have you ever felt like someone was with you, even after they were gone? Maybe you caught a familiar scent in the air, your grandmother's perfume, your father's old cologne. Maybe a favorite song came on at the perfect moment. Maybe you dreamed of someone who had passed, and it felt so real that you woke up with tears in your eyes. You're not imagining things. The people we love don't disappear when they die. They change form. They shift from being beside us to being within us, and sometimes they send messages, not always with words, but in signs, in feelings, in quiet moments that seem too perfect to be coincidence. Let's talk about those moments. Let's talk about how the other side speaks and how we can listen. Real stories of near-death experiences over the years. Thousands of people who came close to death say they experienced something extraordinary. Not fear, not darkness, but presence. They say they saw people they loved, parents, children, even pets, waiting for them, and not just waiting, welcoming. One woman, after a heart attack, said she found herself floating in a golden field. Her sister, who had died years before, was standing there. She didn't speak. She just smiled. And in that smile, the woman felt everything: forgiveness, love, home. Another man, who nearly drowned, said he saw his old dog running toward him. She leapt into my arms, he said, just like she did when I was 12. Then he woke up, soaked, gasping, alive. But he was never the same, because once you feel that kind of love, You know it doesn't end. Signs from loved ones who have passed. Sometimes we get a message without even realizing it. A butterfly that lands on your shoulder. A coin on the floor with a date that matters. A light that flickers for no reason. A song that plays at just the right moment. These aren't accidents. They're reminders. Your loved ones are letting you know, I'm here. I never left. And you don't have to believe in ghosts or spirits to feel the truth of that. You just have to pay attention, because love finds a way. The language of the soul is subtle. Unlike this world, where we talk, text, type, the soul speaks in silence, in feeling, in energy. That's why messages from the other side don't come loud or flashy. They come in dreams, in memories that surface without warning, in goosebumps when you're thinking of someone who passed, in sudden emotions that have no name, but feel like connection. A woman once told a story about standing in her kitchen crying on her late father's birthday. The house was quiet. Then the lights flickered. She laughed through her tears. "All right, Dad," she said. "I hear you." Exercise, opening the door to connection. Let's try something simple. Right now, think of someone you've lost. Picture their face, hear their voice, feel what they meant to you. Now whisper, "If you're near, send me a sign. I'm listening." Then let go. Don't chase it. Just stay open. In the next day or two, you may notice something small. That's how they speak. With kindness, with softness. Because love doesn't shout. It simply is. How to communicate with the other side. You don't need to be a psychic or a medium to feel your loved ones. You just need stillness. Here are a few gentle ways to open that connection. 1. Light a candle. Choose a quiet moment. Light a candle in their name. Sit for a few minutes. Speak to them like they're right there. Because maybe they are. 2. Keep an object or photo. Sometimes keeping a photo or something they once held helps you feel close. Touch it. Talk to it. Let your emotions move through you. That's a conversation too. 3. Write them a letter. Take a piece of paper. Write a letter to someone you've lost. Say what you never got to say. Say what you wish they knew. Then fold it and keep it somewhere special, or burn it and let the message rise with the smoke. The soul hears the heart. Always. Real story, the dream that changed everything. There was a young man named Daniel. He lost his brother in a car accident. They hadn't spoken in years. There had been a fight. Harsh words, no closure. After the funeral, Daniel felt lost, heavy, guilty. One night, he had a dream. His brother was sitting on the porch of their childhood home, smiling. "I know," his brother said. "I know everything, and I love you." Daniel woke up sobbing, but lighter. That dream changed how he lived. He forgave. He began to help others find peace after loss. Because sometimes the dead don't just speak, they heal. Why some people don't feel messages. You might be thinking, "I've never felt anything. Am I missing something?" Not at all. Sometimes grief makes us numb. Sometimes the pain is so big we can't hear the quiet. And that's okay. Just because you haven't seen a sign
doesn't mean your loved one isn't near. They are. And when your heart is ready, the message will come. In their time, in your silence. Just stay open. Love always finds a way. Practice. Bedtime. Connection. Tonight, before you sleep, place a hand over your heart. Whisper the name of someone you miss. Say, I miss you. I'm listening. Visit me in a dream if you can. Then close your eyes and drift. If a dream comes, remember it. If not, know that just reaching out opens something in you, something sacred, something real. The soul doesn't die. Here's the deepest truth of this chapter. The soul doesn't end. It doesn't vanish. It doesn't need a body to exist. It simply changes rooms. And in the quiet, in the stillness, you can still hear its voice. Through signs, through feelings, through sudden laughter in the middle of sadness. And when your time comes to cross over, you won't be alone. You'll be greeted by all those who left before you. And you'll know, I was never alone, not for 1 second. Chapter 13. Final Integration, Embracing Death as a Teacher. What if death wasn't the enemy? What if it was the wisest teacher we never knew we had? What if it's been whispering to us, not in fear, but in truth? All throughout our lives, death walks beside us, not to scare us, but to remind us. Don't waste your time, not in a harsh way, but in a gentle, honest way. Death doesn't take, it reveals. It shows us what really matters. And when we stop running from it, we start living differently. This chapter is about that change. It's about letting death become the teacher it was always meant to be. Real story. The man who lived like he was dying. There was a man named Miguel. At 42, he was told he had cancer. The doctors gave him a year. At first, he was angry, then scared, then quiet. But something changed in him. He started waking up earlier just to watch the sunrise. He called his mother every day just to say thank you. He forgave people he hadn't spoken to in years. He laughed more. He danced in his living room. He told his wife every day, if this is my last, let it be my best. But here's the twist. The cancer went into remission. He lived, and he said, the greatest gift I ever received was thinking I was going to die, because it made him finally live. What death teaches us about life. When you know your time is limited, your attention changes. You stop caring about gossip. You stop worrying about impressing strangers. You stop chasing things that don't fill your heart. Instead, you start noticing the sound of rain, the feel of your child's hand, the smell of your favorite food, the voice of someone you love. Everything becomes more sacred, not because it changed, but because you did. Living like every moment matters. You don't need a diagnosis to live fully. You just need a reminder. And death is that reminder. Every time someone you love passes. Every time you walk past a cemetery. Every time you hear the words, gone too soon. Death is tapping you on the shoulder and saying, are you living with your eyes open? Because one day your last morning will come, and the only question will be, did I show up for my life? Practice the one-day life.
Try this tomorrow. Live like it's your last full day on earth, not in fear, but in love. Ask yourself, who would I hug a little longer? What would I say that I've been holding in? What beauty would I notice? What nonsense would I let go of? Then, do it. And if you wake up the next day, be grateful. Do it again. Because the secret is living like that every day.
The wisdom of impermanence. Everything changes. Every flower fades. Every sunrise ends. Every song stops. And that's what makes them beautiful. If life were forever, we wouldn't notice it. But knowing it's temporary, that's what makes us pay attention. That's what turns ordinary moments into holy ones. A goodbye hug, a shared laugh, a deep breath on a hard day. These are the treasures of a life fully lived, and we see them more clearly when we remember death. Real story. The girl who left a message. A young girl named Zoe knew she was dying. She was only 9. Before she passed, she wrote a note and hid it in her closet. Her parents found it weeks later. It said, "Don't be sad. I'll always be your sparkle. Every time you laugh, I'm there. Every time you smile, I'm smiling too. I love you forever." That one note changed their grief. It reminded them that love doesn't end, that joy is sacred, that even in goodbye there can be grace. How to make peace with impermanence. Let's face it, we all struggle with letting go. We want things to stay. We want people to stay. We want love to stay. But everything eventually shifts. That's not failure. That's nature. And when we stop resisting change, we stop suffering. We begin to trust the flow, to honor beginnings and endings with equal reverence. That's what peace looks like. Not having control, but having acceptance. Practice. A love letter to the present moment. Take 5 minutes. Sit with your eyes closed. Place your hand over your heart. Now whisper, "I don't need tomorrow to be happy. I don't need more to feel whole. This moment is enough." Feel the truth of that right here, right now. You're alive. That's the miracle. Living with death as a friend. You don't have to fear death. Not when you understand it. Not when you prepare. Not when you've lived so fully that when your time comes, you can say, "I didn't waste it. I showed up. I loved deeply. I made peace." That's what a conscious life looks like. And death? It just becomes the final bow. The soft closing of a book you cherished reading, not because it was long, but because it was true. Chapter 14. The Eternal Presence. Let's take one final breath together, in and out. You've walked this entire journey through life, death, the afterlife, rebirth, and the truth that lies beyond it all. And now we arrive here, not at an end, but at a beginning that has no starting point. Because this chapter is about something that doesn't come and go. It's not born, it doesn't die, it simply is. This chapter is about what remains after the body is gone, after the fear is gone, after even the soul has let go. This chapter is about the eternal presence, the soul beyond time and space. You are not your name. You are not your job. You are not your past or your future. You are awareness, consciousness, the silent watcher behind every experience. Before you were born, you were. After you die, you still are. Not in a body, not in a place, but as presence itself. The part of you that knows without thinking, feels without trying, loves without needing. That part has no age, no end. It just is. Real story. The woman who felt the infinite. A woman named Ruth had a near-death experience during childbirth. She said that for a few minutes, everything fell away. Her body, her identity, even her memories. She described it like floating in golden silence. There was no time, no story, just being. She said, I didn't feel like me. I felt like everything, like the space between the stars. And she wasn't afraid. She said it felt like going home. That's the eternal presence, not a place, not a form, just the truth behind everything. Why death is a return, not a loss. Most people think of death as losing something, losing a loved one, losing a life, losing a future. But the deeper truth? Death is a return, not to a heaven above, not to a judgment below, but to the source of who we are, to the stillness we come from, to the light we were made of. Imagine a wave on the ocean. For a while, it rises, moves, shines in the sun. Then, eventually, it returns to the sea. It doesn't die. It simply becomes part of the whole again. That's you. That's all of us. We are waves on the ocean of being, and when our time comes, we return. The truth of the eternal now. The past is gone. The future is not here yet. All we ever really have is now. This moment. Right here. Right now. That's where life happens. That's where the soul speaks. That's where eternity lives, not in some distant place, but in this breath, this heartbeat, this silent space between thoughts. The eternal isn't far away. It's right here, always. Practice, becoming still. Close your eyes for a moment. Take a breath and let everything go. Your thoughts, your plans, even your name. Just sit and notice that you're still here. Not your thoughts, not your roles, just you. Quiet, aware, present. This is who you really are. Not a body, not a mind, but presence. Unchanging, untouched, eternal. You were never alone. Throughout this journey, you've explored fear, rebirth, light, letting go, and returning. And through it all, one truth has echoed. You were never alone. Not in life, not in death, not in the quiet spaces in between. Something has always been with you, watching, loving, waiting, and that something is you, your deepest self, the eternal presence, the part of you that never left the light, even while you were walking through the dark. The final realization, when all the lessons are learned, when all the fears are released, when the soul has returned home, there is no longer a question of what happens when I die. There is only this:
I was always life itself.
I was never separate from love. I am and always will be the light. That is the final truth. That is the great remembering, and now you remember it too. Closing practice, the eternal self. Place your hand on your heart, feel it beating, not just blood and muscle, but life. Now say quietly to yourself, I am the stillness behind all change. I am the soul beyond all stories. I am the presence that never ends. Let that truth sink into your bones, and know from this moment on you are never truly afraid of death again, because you've seen what's on the other side.
And more than that, you've found it inside you.
And now we've come full circle. You've walked through 14 chapters. You've stood at the edge of death. You've floated through the mystery. You've sat with fear and discovered light.
You've remembered that you are not your body, not your thoughts, not even your name.
You are soul. You are awareness. You are the quiet presence behind every sunrise, every goodbye, every sacred moment you've ever lived. This journey wasn't just about what happens after death. It was about how to live right now with more love, more meaning, and more peace. Because once you understand death, you begin to understand life. You stop rushing, you stop clinging, you start listening, and most of all, you start letting go. Letting go of guilt, letting go of fear, letting go of the belief that you are not enough. Because the truth is, you were always enough. You always will be.
And when your time comes, you'll remember what you heard here. That death is not an ending. It's a doorway, a return, a great homecoming, and waiting on the other side is peace.
So, as you move back into your day, into your life, take this with you. Walk slower, speak softer, hug longer, forgive sooner, and look up at the sky sometimes, because your soul will recognize something there, something familiar, something eternal. Thank you for listening. Thank you for remembering. Thank you for being here. This is not goodbye. This is just until we meet again. With infinite love, the Inspiral family.